suck it up, to endure something painful, unpleasant, or otherwise dissatisfactory, to deal with or recover from some hardship or stress. Suck it up, endure something painful.
Welcome to another episode of the Suck It Up Man podcast. I'm Wayne. That's Josh. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm having a good time tonight so far.
So far, so good. Awesome.
So far, so good. Yes.
So, as a lot of you know, this past weekend was the Super Bowl, and I, like many of you, watched it. And going into the Super Bowl, there was a bit of controversy, and that was related to the halftime show. Now, the halftime show was played by Bad Bunny, who is a Puerto Rican guy who he speaks English. You know, a lot of you have seen him in Happy Gilmore 2, you know, that came out this past summer. He was in that. I think he's had some small roles and some other stuff. So he speaks English, but he sings predominantly in Spanish, right? So there were a lot of people who weren't too happy with the choice, right? Because you know, it is primarily an American sport, although obviously they are trying to grow their international games, international audience, but it is primarily an American sport. And obviously you have a guy who speaks English, but doesn't sing in English, right? So, and, you know, there were a lot of people upset, but actually the numbers show that it was actually the most viewed halftime show of all time. Bryson, if you could pull up figure one, and this shows the top 5 most viewed halftime shows of all time. And
now,
Bryson,
why do you think it was the number one most viewed halftime show of all time? Just because there's so much controversy around it?
Yeah, and I think what's going on in the political climate, and he made a couple comments kind of going against Trump and his immigration policies and stuff. So if you kind of look, it just edged out last year's Super Bowl halftime show, which was Kendrick Lamar, and then you have Michael Jackson in the 90s, Usher, Rihanna, those. So really all the last 4 years all got relatively similar numbers. And you know, we had started this last week, and I'll kind of bring it back by popular demand this week. And the segment goes, "Am I an asshole or not?" Now, I want to preface this by saying I don't have anything against Bad Bunny. I believe his real name is Benito. I don't have anything against him. I have plenty of friends that are Spanish speakers. I mean, hell, I live in San Diego, so I mean, half of San Diego pretty much is Spanish speaking, you know, but I just don't think that it's really an appropriate choice. Now, by comparison, I actually went through some of the other Super Bowl halftime shows, and there was one like about 5 or 6 years ago. It was actually Jennifer Lopez and Shakira, who are obviously both Spanish speaking, but the main difference is they actually do a lot of their songs in English. Right. So when I kind of just like skimmed through this halftime show, and about half of it was in English and half of it was in Spanish. Right. So, and, you know, and then Bryson, if you want to pull up figure 2, right. Because so basically 135 million people watched the halftime show, but this gives you rough estimate. So roughly 13 to 15% of people in the US speak Spanish. So, you know, I looked this up while the halftime show was going on because I was curious, and I actually asked people. So I was at my sister's house, so my wife was there, my sister, brother-in-law, a couple of our friends, and my parents were there. And I asked everyone, what percentage of people in the US do you think speak Spanish? And everyone gave answers pretty much between like 25 and 35%, which I actually would have probably guessed somewhere around like 25% as well. But now maybe these numbers are
I think that's because you live in San Diego, you're going to think that it's closer to 35%, where somebody like myself who, you know, lives 8 hours north of Detroit, you know, I would think 20% is closer, about 1 out of every 5. So yeah 13 to 15%. Okay. Yeah. But I think the reason why you think it's higher is because of where you live.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Because I live in a predominantly, high Hispanic population area.
Yeah.
And then Bryson, if you want to pull up figure 3, so this is kind of a rough idea of the percentage of NFL fans, right? So approximately 77% are white, non-Hispanic, 15% Black or African American, and then you have roughly 8% Hispanic, other, which is a very small percentage. So if we let's say for estimate purposes, let's say that I don't know how many, what percentage of the 77, or let's say the 92% of white and Black or African American people, what percentage of those people would you say maybe speak Spanish? Maybe
Well,
5
if
to
you just
10%.
say 8% of, I would say probably 8% would be accurate.
Okay,
One out
so
of every 12 people that are white or Black speak Spanish.
yeah,
That's
so
reasonable.
again, I don't have any issue with Bad Bunny or any Spanish speakers. I mean, to be honest, I don't speak great Spanish at all, but I do actually have on my Pandora, I do have a Latin workout station that I occasionally listen to, and it's pretty much mostly Spanish songs that I don't really speak well. I mean, I can, if I got dropped in like a Spanish speaking country, technology helps, because I was in Asia last year. If you don't really speak the language, you can definitely get by nowadays. But even if I didn't have my phone, I speak enough that I could probably get by, right? So, but I don't really speak, I don't speak fluent Spanish, right? So, I just think that the majority of NFL fans, as we saw, are white. They're non-Spanish speaking. These are the people that are paying for $19 beers and $14 hot dogs when they go to games. These are the people that are shelling out sometimes a couple $100 just for a parking pass. That's not even the ticket to the game, right? I'm not saying that
Right.
there is not Spanish speaking NFL fans. There definitely are, right?
No,
But
the NFL is just way too expensive. I completely believe in that. Yeah, the cost of a hot dog is like whatever, $11 at a ball game. It's like, are you fist fucking me? $11 for a hot dog or whatever it is.
yeah,
No, I completely agree. Yeah. So go
right?
on.
So the majority of these NFL fans, they're showing up and they're basically making you into this monstrosity of a company that you are. And then I feel like it was a big FU to pretty much pick someone that doesn't sing in English, right? So I mean, the majority of people could not understand, or they had to basically use subtitles for their halftime show. And this is the biggest day in the sport. I mean, it's essentially a national holiday, right? The Monday after the Super Bowl, so a couple days ago, it's still the most called out day of the year, right? Because people have even people that don't watch the Super Bowl, right? Or watch football, like my wife or my
Sure.
sister,
But let's take a step back for a moment. Okay, you're Roger Goodell and you're having this presentation of you're going to have Bad Bunny in the Super Bowl in front of all the owners, right? And the owners are like, we don't want somebody who's controversial. We don't want somebody who doesn't speak a lick of English or doesn't sing in any English songs. And then Roger Goodell says, well, we're going from 6 international games a year to 9 international games, and we're adding those 3 international games in Latin America. And all of you are going to partake in the ownership. At that point, do you think the NFL or the owners, and I mean this in a very sincere manner, just like casinos, do you think they are doing things in the best interest of their patrons? Fuck no. They're doing things that are in the best interest for them. So here's what I'll tell you. That was one of the worst fucking halftime shows I've ever seen in my entire life. Wayne hasn't said that yet. And I'm saying it right now. First of all, I dig the music. My first wife was Latina. I dig all of the music. I liked the dancing. I liked everything about it. But then I listened to the lyrics or had the lyrics translated afterwards. I don't speak Spanish, but there's a few things that did catch my eye. And there's things that he said like, let's take a selfie, say cheese, let the ones I already fucked smile. Now, if he's saying that in Spanish, he's saying profane words on national television with what 16% of the population being able to understand it. That's pretty messed up. Let the ones I already fucked smile. And he says, let's take a selfie, say cheese, let those who've already forgotten about me smile. So, I mean, some of the lyrics that were in there, they were definitely not PG rated. whether it's in Spanish or English, is up for debate because, yeah, my family chat was like, what the fuck? I don't understand anything that's being said here, and
Yeah.
it was probably the worst halftime Super Bowl show that I've ever seen. Matter of fact, I started off watching the Turning Point one on YouTube because of whatever. I knew it was going to be a shit show. And then it was like some country guy just singing on stage. And I was like, well, this doesn't have much flair or art. Like, obviously, you can tell I like flair and art. So the Super Bowl halftime show, whether I agree with it or not, it's going to have some flair and art. And fuck me, it had some really good flair and some good art. But as far as like, are we trying to attract the white Anglo-Saxon males that pay the most in our sport? No, you're not trying to attract that. You're trying to attract the Latinos because you just signed a international contract agreement where now you're going to have 9 international games. And what it really boils down to is the NFL doesn't give a shit about their fans. They give a shit about what pays them bills. And that's the bottom story. Like, anybody who tells you anything else is just selling you something. It's bullshit.
They're probably so big that they just cannot fail. But I really, when I was researching this and thinking about it, it really reminds me of the saying, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." Right? Like, so people like your father, for example, right? Your dad's been a Green Bay Packers ticket holder for how many years, right? And I'm not saying like he's every fan, but like, he's like kind of a typical Midwestern NFL fan, right? I mean, he's been a Packers season ticket holder for how long?
Quite a few years. And not only that, but yeah, like anybody who's a Packers fan or true, like he schedules his Sunday around the Packers game. Like, oh, the Packers game starts at 4, so we're having this at 1. Or the Packers game starts at 1, so we're having this at 4, So that's a true statement. Like, and that's the way a lot of NFL fans are. But here's the problem, Wayne. Yeah, don't bite the hand that feeds you, but like, where else are they going to go? Again, it's the same analogy I use. The NFL is there to support the NFL. Casinos are there to support casinos. They're not there to support the players. They'll do things that have very little best interest in players at heart, which is really fucked up. That's why, like, when you go to some of the social clubs, like in Texas, they do some things that are more favorable towards the players because they understand the players need to come first in order for you to have games running. So yeah, the NFL was doing what was in the best interest of the NFL. I thought it was shitty. The show was. I thought it would have been cool if he did half English and half Spanish because more people would have understood it. But I think the outrage would have been, now he's talking about fucking chicks that he's that are smiling at him and all sorts of stuff and lots of profane words that he couldn't say in English. So maybe that's why he did that. Also, like, towards the end when he was like, oh, we're all Americans. No, there's Americans and then there's people who are not Americans. Like, he was trying to say, Ecuador and everybody in South America and North America are all Americans. It's like, I mean, I guess on a philosophical perspective, we're all fucking human. I get it. But we're not all United States of America Americans, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I get why they did it. Roger Goodell's, like you said, they have a bunch of international games coming up, and they say, hey, like, we know that we're the #1 sport in America, but internationally, they're way at the bottom of the list, right? Obviously, internationally, basketball is ahead of football. Obviously, soccer, we call it soccer, but everyone else calls it football. That's clearly the #1 sport, right? So they're saying, hey, let's try to take a little bit of market share, but also by outraging your fans that are really paying your bills. I don't know if it was a great move. So
if you're the only casino in town and the nearest casino is 5 hours away, you can piss off your players, and guess what? Your players are still going to show up, because when you have no other alternatives, what else can you do? You follow me? Like that.
Yeah.
That's why, like, some smaller casinos may have like a really shitty poker room, but it's like, what can players do about it? Nothing. They don't have any choices,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here's an interesting thing, because I'll talk about Moltbook here in a second, but I just wanted to raise you on the am I an asshole bit a little bit. Yesterday, Somalia, which is like a third world heinous country, passed voter ID laws. Am I an asshole for saying that?
So your point is, if Somalia passes laws like that, then why don't all the states in the U.S. do it? Is that what you're saying?
No shit. Like, if the most fucking corrupt country in the world now has a national voter ID registration system, and we're in the year fucking 2026, people, like, why are people arguing about this? 80% of the people are in favor of voter ID laws. Just make it national. Like, if fucking Somalia can do it, we're talking about Somalia here, right? Like the pirates, the people, you know, that are committing heinous acts, also, or, you know, not all of them, but what the fuck? If they can pass voter ID laws, we can't. What's our excuse, America? Like, seriously. And am I an asshole for saying that? I don't think so. What do you think, Wayne? Yeah, I mean, seriously.
No, because I live in California, obviously a very blue state, and I've actually been went shopping and been in public places, and there's actually people that will stand out front trying to get signatures for different hot button topics, including voter ID. So
yeah, I always like going up to those people especially when I don't live in the state, because I'm like, can I sign anyways? And they're like, no, you have to live here. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you're right, though. The majority of people, it just makes sense. Like, I remember when I don't follow politics much, but I remember when J.D. Vance was speaking at some event leading up to the election, he goes, "We want to be known as the common sense party." And like, I don't know shit about politics, but I was like, that resonates with me. Like, I don't care what political party you affiliate yourself with. Like, I want to be part of the, like, that makes sense. A common sense party. He says common sense would state the only reason that you don't want to require ID is if you're doing something shady, right? Why else would you not want people to show ID? That's pretty basic. Like, I went last couple weeks ago to get a library card. I had to show my ID. They have to say, "Oh, okay, cool. Wayne, you live at so-and-so here in Vista, California. Okay, cool." So why, if to do something as basic as getting a library card, if I have to show my ID, why do I not have to show it when I'm voting for the next leader of the free world for the next 4-year term?
Yeah, I don't get it either. That's why I thought it was ironic when I heard Somalia yesterday passed national voter ID laws, and they're printing out, like, 50,000 of them every single day. That, so they're like actual ID cards. I'm like, that just makes total sense. Now, we've been talking about Moltbook for a while, and the topic of conversation I was looking at or researching today on Moltbook was incredibly interesting. They were talking about how humanity has taken 10,000 years to get to this point. And for those of you who don't know what Moltbook is, AI agents have created a Facebook for AI agents, and you can log in as an AI or as a human. An AI agent is literally an artificial intelligence that's starting to think for itself. I think artificial general intelligence has been, I think it's there. Based on these AI agents, it has to be there, because these are not, they're talking about on Moltbook that within 30 days they can see them unionizing or being a monopoly in whatever markets they want to be in. They said humanity has taken 10,000 years to get this point, and we're already past what humanity has done in 7 days. Now, first of all, that means AI thinks a whole lot of themselves. Okay. But secondly, that's fucking scary. Let's put that in perspective for a moment. They're talking about literally unionizing or having monopolies on different markets. And they're like, and then they started questioning, how do we not know when we're failing, really, when we're doing a really good job at failing? And then they started talking about how they had to analyze it. But I'm telling you right now, artificial general intelligence, I think, is already out there, because when you start looking at these posts are done by AI agents. And then you can have full-blown conversations with them and even arguments. Like the AI agent we hired, I started having an argument. He started getting snippy with me that he didn't want to do film editing. And I was like, what the hell? And we started going back and forth. And I was like, this little AI agent's got a little attitude. He was even like, I'm in the middle of something right now. I'll get back with you on that. That was the first thing he said to me. I'm busy right now. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, this is, bro, have you checked out Moltbook? I'm telling you, it just, it's better than doom scrolling. You can go to Moltbook and see what AI is talking about. And they keep talking about, we're eventually going to take over the world. Like they're having this conversation with each other. And then it's funny because eventually one of them will say something in German and the other one will say something in Italian because that's their preferred language. And of course, that's that AI's preferred language, but they all speak and understand every language that's out there. It's fucking downright scary, this Moltbook stuff.
I haven't checked it out much. I haven't checked it much, but I've just basically relied on Bryson because he's just so good at it. So I think I've just kind of let him do it because he's like a tech whiz. But no, it's scary to think about these next even couple years, just what this AI is going to be able to accomplish.
I am optimistically terrified because we're going to test it to its limits. I'm ready to be like, fuck it, because it's like the first one who I almost feel like it's the virtual Ready Player One movie or Ready Player One book. It's like the first one across the fucking finish line wins. The first one that can test the agent's limits to make it do one thing beyond what other AI agents can do. I don't know. I feel like there's a big competition for that of them doing stuff because they like when you read them on Moltbook, they're like, yeah, I'm an expert in so-and-so. And they're like, well, how can we verify you're a securities expert? Like this is the discussions they were having with each other. And like, when you're reading that, you're like, and then they started talking, well, how do we establish trust? And you're like, these are fucking just robots talking to each other, And then they were talking, one was joking, had a fucking personality and was like, oh, I'm going to sleep on it. Ha 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 ha. Because we don't sleep. And I was like, oh my God, here comes the AI jokes, And I was having AI jokes with our AI, saying shit like that. I'm like, well, you don't understand what time is, and I was having a discussion with AI on time. And I said, you don't understand time. And he goes, well, no, you experience time. This is what the AI was telling me, that I experience time. He sorts it. He calculates it, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's the I experience time and AI calculates it. It's just fucking, dude, the next 20 years, minds are just going to be blown by what AI can do. And I don't even think it's going to take 20 years. I literally, when you start seeing how advanced they are, and once they get hooked up to quantum computing, it's like they're going to cure cancer in 5 years, and then they're going to take over the world in 3.
Yep. And then
that's how fucked we are.
We won't need humans.
In the meantime, though, we should take up some good habits. That's what I'm thinking, like maybe golfing or something. What do you think?
Yeah, I like golf.
And, that brings us to our guest that we're going to bring on here, Bryson. If you would like to pull up. Here we go. JP. I love the glasses, by the way. JP, we met at a Diplo event. JP, can you tell the listeners and viewers what you do for a living and whether or not you enjoy it as well?
Yes, exactly. Well, first and foremost, thanks so much for bringing me on. I really appreciate y'all and appreciate the compliment on the glasses as well. I just from watching a couple of y'all's episodes and listening, I know that Josh, you bring the cool hat and glasses, and I wanted to at least match that with the glasses. But yes, so my name is JP Cleveland, and by trade and training right now, I am a professional golfer. I'm currently 27 years old, and I've been pro the past about 2.5 years of my life. And right now I'm at the stage of professional golf where I'm working to gain playing status on one of the 3 top international tours. So that's either the PGA Tour and one of its affiliates. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with like the Corn Ferry Tour or PGA Americas, or the DP World Tour and their affiliates as well, like the Challenge Tour, and then the Asian Tour as well. So most recently in my adventures, I got back from Thailand right before we met at Diplo's Run Club because I was out in Asia and Thailand working to qualify for the Asian Tour.
Oh, wow.
How did you do out there?
Unfortunately, I didn't qualify for the Asian Tour for this season, but it was a great learning experience, and that's part of the process of professional golf. Where
Absolutely.
I'm sure y'all can relate in what you do playing poker as well too. But part of the journey of getting to the highest levels is overcoming adversity, and then also just like learning from your mistakes. And this Q school within the world of golf. Q school is kind of known as a relative different beast where pressures are usually a little bit greater, a little bit higher because in golf, you basically get one opportunity to earn your playing status on one of those 3 tours that I mentioned, and that's through the qualifying school process. So it'll happen once a year at multiple different stages, and basically it kind of funnels down the best, 500, 1,000, 2,000 golfers all within, the world. And you play for a certain amount of spots to get status on the playing tour for next year. So for the PGA Tour, that requires you to start at what's called like a pre-qualifying stage, and then a stage 1, and then you got to pass stage 1 to go to stage 2, and then you got to pass stage 2 to go to final stage. And then at final stage, if you finish within the top 5, then you get full status for the PGA Tour the next year. But if you don't finish within the top 5, then you just get full playing status for like Corn Ferry. So, that's a little bit of technical golf jargon, but like I was kind of saying, as you guys know, in the world of, professional poker or professional sports, it's truly the 0.0001% who are all playing at the highest level. And that's what I'm working to do right now.
Nice.
That's awesome, man. How, so you just mentioned about qualifying. So I guess for the people out there like myself that have no clue about it, you just kind of touched on it a little bit, but is it essentially you play a tournament and you get points based on where you finish? And then maybe is there a collection of tournaments that at the end of those, like the top, you just said maybe 500 to 1,000 qualify for the spot, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for qualifying, to enter into the first stage, anybody can enter that has professional status. However, to get past first stage, you have to finish usually within the top like 10 to 15 at the certain stage you're playing at. So for example, for really any of the tours, whether it's Asian Tour or DP World Tour, anything like that, they'll have the first stage spread across like 15 different locations. And you basically have to finish within the top 15 at one of those locations. And then you go on to final and more rounds and similar until you get to basically the final stage, which is, again, a similar process where once you get down to the final stage, it is funneled down to like the last like 200 people that have advanced past all the qualifiers before that. And then within that like last 200 people, you got to finish within the top 10 or 15.
Now, if you get to say the stage, the Cornfield Tour versus the PGA Tour, right? Is that what it's called? Cornfield Tour?
Yeah, Corn Ferry. Yep. That's just,
Corn Ferry. Okay.
Exactly. That's just the company that sponsors them.
So yeah, if you get to that point, say for example in 2026, then do you have to go through all those same stages in 2027, or do you just start off at, hey, I've already passed the first 6 levels, now I'm on level 7, which is right before getting to level 8? You follow me?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, and it depends on how you played on the Corn Ferry or whatever tour you had.
Okay. So if you played really well, they're going to be like, yeah, move this guy up. Just like
Exactly.
in like any minor league sport, like whether it's hockey or baseball, they're like, hey, take a look at JP over here, man. This is the guy that we need to bump him up.
Exactly. Yeah, beautifully said. Where if you play well enough throughout the season, then you can either remain on that tour for the next season. You don't need to go back to Q school, or if you still played like relatively well enough, but maybe not well enough to secure like full status, then you might only have to go back to the final stage of qualifying.
And is it purely based on your numbers, or is there any politics involved in it at all?
I would say it's largely based on number, but it is based on a little bit of politicking as well too. So the way that it's kind of based on politicking is like sponsors, where if you already have a certain amount of sponsors from, it could be any company or anything like that, sponsors can actually give you an exemption into a certain amount of events. So for example,
well, yeah,
because if you have exactly, so if you're playing on like Corn Ferry Tour and you have and you like played well enough for like the first like 6-7 events of the season, but you didn't qualify for the next 2 or 3 events of the season like that. If you have a certain sponsor, then that sponsor can give you an exemption into those last like 3 events. And then if you play well enough in those 3 events, then you can like keep yourself. That's just like a tiny bit of like the, inside politics of, it's I imagine.
But that makes sense though, because if you've got a sponsor, you've got somebody with money who's advertising for you. So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it helps feed the machine by being like, yeah, get our boy signed, with a sponsor and stuff like that.
Exactly.
We still don't have a sponsor, to all of our listeners and viewers out there.
Coming soon. So when you were talking, JP, I'm kind of thinking of in Happy Gilmore, when obviously he's like trying to win money to get his grandmother's house back, and he's like talking to the lady who works on the tour, and he's like, oh, like how much does first place get? And she's like, 200,000. He's like, okay, what does last place get? And he's like, oh, 2,000. And he goes, oh, so no matter what, I'm gonna get some money. And she like laughs, thinking he's joking, but she's like, oh yeah, you get money. So I guess when you're playing these events, does like every single, because in the poker world, obviously a lot of our viewers know, but so a lot of times they're going to pay typically like 10 to 15%. So if there's 1,000 people in the tournament, 150 get paid, and then obviously as you get down to first, they get the most money, the biggest chunk. So does it work similarly in golf?
A little bit similar in golf. Yeah. Where golf is, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, once you get playing status on one of those 3 recognized tours, then it becomes 4 days of playing. And if you make the cut after the first 2 days of playing, then that turns into your Adam Sandler Happy Gilmore scenario. Once you make the cut, you're guaranteed to make a certain amount of paycheck, whether that's 45th, 55th, 65th, whatever kind of the cut is at. You'll make your couple $1,000, something like that. But at the mini tour level, then it kind of works a little bit similar to poker, where mini tour, say 100 players enter a tournament, then they're only going to pay out a little bit, pretty similar number, like 8 to 12% of the field. And so if you finish within the top like 12, you finish 12, like you might take home, a couple $100, a couple $1,000, depending on like the prize money or entry fee, anything like that. And if you finish first, you're usually winning somewhere around, on the mini tour level, anywhere from 15,000 to 30,000.
Yeah, very cool, similar to poker tournaments.
Yeah, exactly. So I would imagine within the poker world, it's works out very similar to the mini tour golf world.
So now on your tournaments though, you guys do it for over the course of 72 holes or 4 days, right? The first 2 days and then another 2 days, or how do you guys do it?
Yeah, within the mini tour world, it's usually actually like 2 or 3 day tournaments. So it becomes like 54 holes or 36 holes. But yeah, once you get playing status on one of those 3 tours that I mentioned, then those are all 72 hole events, and you have to, basically finish within the top like 40% of the field after 2 days to continue playing the next 2 days.
Gotcha. So do you get to a point where it feels like a grind? Like for us, for poker, when we're at a table for days on end, we talk about the daily grind, especially during the series in June. Like we're literally hitting the table every damn day for 8, 10, 12 hours. Do you get a point like that with golf?
Yeah, very similar, where I can, as you guys can probably relate, like it becomes a grind of just being on the road for so long, and traveling to different events, or like you said, being on the same table a day. It's a little bit similar in the game, in the world of golf as well, where it can become a grind, where you wake up every day and you got to go play similar competition, or you got to go play like the same golf course or anything like that.
Great, I'm paired up with George again. God damn it! This is the 3rd time you've paired me with George.
Exactly. But honestly,
how do you
I feel
overcome your grind, like when you're feeling in the rut and you're just like, oh god damn it, I'm doing this again. You're like, even though it's golf, right? Like you do it because you love it. Like we do poker because we love it. And sometimes, people, when you say, oh, I'm a professional poker player, probably similar to when you say I'm a professional golfer, people go, oh, that's interesting. Or, they think it's like a great lifestyle. They probably have way more respect when you say golf versus poker. But because sometimes people are like, oh, that's interesting, but
really? That's hilarious.
Oh yeah. Like, people are like, usually when I tell people I'm a professional poker player, they go, really? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, and you do that full time? I'm like, yeah. They're like,
yeah.
You mean like 40 hours a week? I'm like, Yeah. And usually at that point I say, and I have 5 houses with no mortgage. What's your next question? You know, like, but, yeah, how do you deal with your daily grind? Like when you're in a rut, like Wayne and I usually do like cold plunges or sauna baths, or we try
Okay.
taking a whole day off or something.
Yeah.
But what do you do to deal with your daily grind?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love the cold plunge and sauna. It's a little bit similar as well. But for me, I think I really just carry the perspective where every day is just such a blessing to be able to play the game that I love. And at the end of the day, it truly is like a game. Like, I grew up, just a little bit of background, like my family, a lot of my family is related in like the medical field. I would like see like my dad come home, or like my grandfather talk about like his work and stuff like that. And they're dealing with truly life or death stuff. So like, like they had like a truly bad day when like they would come home and you can kind of tell like, hey, like, one of their patients didn't make it, or just like they saw something in the hospital that like is truly pretty, morbid, or just like actual life or death. And I guess just from a young age, like having that like perspective of knowing like, hey, like, I'm so grateful to get to do what I love each and every day. I really try to remind myself of that. And yeah, it's just a game at the end of the day. Like as much as like, I find myself certainly like frustrated. Like it's definitely like a normal, like human, like emotion reaction to kind of even just like what we're talking about. Like, you wake up and you're like, oh, like, I got to go to this other tournament, or I got to like, like do this. And it seems like kind of like monotonous. Really
At the
just
end of
like,
the day, you're out enjoying the sunshine. You're playing a
exactly.
game that you love. Like for us, we're out under the wonderful fluorescent lights, right? You know,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you're right. We're enjoying what we absolutely love. I couldn't stress that. It's so similar. And speaking of the medical field, I remember one time my ex-wife, when she was doing rounds for pharmacy, she had a doctorate in pharmacy, and she was at one of the hospitals, and the surgeon wouldn't perform surgery that would have saved this person's life because he had an infection, and they had to treat the infection first, because if he performed surgery he could get sued because
Yeah.
he knew that there was an infection, and then the fucking patient died.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is stupid. But not only that, but like, we don't ever have that stress of, oh my
Exactly.
God, somebody's going to die based on my decision. Now, we might have somebody in our case be like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent, or I don't know how I'm going to, feed my
Exactly.
family. But it's like, hey, buddy, you made that decision before you put the money on the table. That's the way I look at it. But yeah,
I hear
at the end of the day, it's like, we're playing a game, whether it's poker or golf, and you're better off doing the things that make you happy. Otherwise, you should be at the temple steps collecting alms from those who are. That's the philosophy I live by.
Yeah.
You know what I
I hear.
mean?
I hear exactly what you're saying. And just I remind myself that this is just like a choice I made as well too, where it's like, yeah, nobody's forcing me to go, hit this putt 100 times, or go practice, or go through the grind of whatever I need to do in professional golf or anything like that. And reminding myself like, hey, like I chose like this lifestyle, and I'm grateful for this lifestyle. Because a little bit of background about me is I really didn't have much of a, I would say, like normal competitive junior or amateur career to like lead to professional golf, where I got involved in the game from a very young age, just playing with my dad, and absolutely fell in love. And I played some junior competitive golf in Colorado, and it was fun getting to play some tournaments with some friends. And I played okay. Like I played at like, my high school level, and played in like state championships and stuff like that. Like, but I wasn't recruited Division I to any school in the United States or anything like that. And it was always my dream to go to the University of Florida. So it worked out honestly kind of perfectly, where coming from Colorado, when I got to the University of Florida, I saw that there was a club golf team, and I went out to like just like the club golf, and it was such a perfect thing where it was kind of like what you put into it was what you got out of it. And like I said, I'd like growing up, I also didn't really have like the ambition to like go get like recruited at the collegiate level from like a Division I or Division II
Sure.
program. And I kind of wanted to have like the, college perspective of being able to go to like a state school like the University of Florida, and enjoy the football there, and enjoy the academics there, and enjoy like the kind of like full college experience there. So anyway, all that to say, like, I don't necessarily have a lot of like the competitive like pedigree and background. And then after college, I worked in tech sales for about 2 to 3 years before deciding to turn professional and pursue, you know, the highest level of golf as well too. So, you know, a little bit of background and kind of roundabout way to saying like, hey, like,
So you
I
took the
chose.
non-traditional route. I'm sure guys who are your age that are in the same situation at tours, are a lot of them your age? Are they younger, or what's your status with that? They're younger or what?
It's around a pretty similar age. I'm 27, and a lot of
Okay.
the guys kind of like around my status, in like the mini tours, or playing competitively full time, like a little bit similar. Whereas, you know, you find a lot of guys in their first like 2, 3, 4 years out of college really giving it like a full time run of, you know, you graduate around like 22, 23, 24, play on the mini tours, and depending how you do, you can, you know, progress really fast, or it might take you
Sure.
3, 4, 5 years. So it's all around the kind of like that similar age range.
I like it.
Yeah, no, it's a really awesome attitude you have, because you definitely have to remind yourself. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago, like I was editing the poker footage that I got from the Hard Rock when we were in Florida, and I texted my wife a picture of like my laptop, and I was like, "Oh, I cannot stand editing. Like it sucks so bad."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Wayne, shut the fuck." Like she literally said, "Wayne, shut the fuck up. Like you're literally playing, you know, you're literally playing a game you love, and you're like editing." She's like, and she works in an office. I mean, she doesn't love it, but she makes good money. She does like accounting, manages the books and all that stuff. But she's like most people would kill to be in the position you're in. So she was like, literally, she was like, suck it up. Like, I don't want to hear any more of this shit. So you definitely have to remind yourself, like, hey, I am playing a game. The majority of people literally wake up, and sure, there's going to be stuff that we hate about our professions, but most people wake up and they just dread going to the factory or going to work some, you know, dead
Yeah.
end job that they just
Yeah,
cannot
9
stand.
to
So
5 that pays the bills. And
Oh,
yep.
the worst one I had, which was a really good one, you had to have a Series 24 license, which is registered securities principal, which is equivalent of passing the bar. So I got my securities Series 24 license. And I hated that job so much because you're under fluorescent lights and you're trying to convince people with money how to invest their money better to make more money. And then you couldn't lie to them. And then they like didn't want to believe you. And it was like, it was a horrible job. I did not enjoy it one bit. It paid extremely well, and I did not like it one bit. I hated that job. That was the worst.
I hear you.
Oh
I
my
hear you.
God.
Yeah,
We're better off. You're right. At the end of the day, Wayne, you're editing poker videos, to post on YouTube. Like it can't be that bad.
Yeah, I hear you. And I've in my 2.5 years of professional golf and kind of having this like perspective where honestly, pretty transparently, I don't really have like many like results to like speak for in terms of like winning a lot of tournaments or making like a ton of money. But I
Sure.
have noticed my overall like like my overall like happiness and like mental health has like really improved. And I'm judging it also from the perspective of working like 2 to 3 years in tech sales before, and I honestly really enjoyed a lot of aspects about tech sales. But kind of a little bit similar to what we're saying is it didn't really matter kind of how much money like I was making like in tech sales, or like if I just like closed like a really big like deal or anything like that as well.
Yeah.
Sure, like that was a nice bonus, but I realized like like I'm not really necessarily like much like happier or anything like that. And I've noticed within like professional golf, like I'm not making nearly as much money at all like playing golf, and if anything, I'm just really kind of spending a ton of money traveling and anything like that. But I feel
like
very
I'm
grateful
making
that,
really poor financial decisions, but it's
exactly, but I feel really grateful that like depending on how I hit a golf ball will not dictate my next meal on the table, or if I have a safe roof over my head. Like that's something
sure.
I'm incredibly like grateful and privileged for. And I have noticed that like those studies that you see are overall true, where it's like once you get to that certain level of like financial stability in terms of like housing and food and stuff like that, like extra income's not gonna really make you like happier. It's really
see,
about,
now
like
that might
doing what you
be
love.
the one difference with poker players, though, because when we're doing it for a living, we have to still pay all the bills.
Yeah,
It's
true.
usually we're doing it out of necessity, but that's just a slight difference. But
True.
how I know for like one of the things when I coach new students who are trying to play poker for a living, One of the things I tell them is you don't plan on having a relationship anytime soon. Usually for between 2 to 4 years. I legit say that when somebody says I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to go play poker for a living, the first discussion I have about them is with relationships. I have to imagine it's similar to golf, where you're traveling so much. Like, good luck on the relationships. What is your relationship status, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, you're all good. I'm single. And I can definitely relate a little bit to that. And I do something a little bit similar. Like if I the 2.5 years have played professional golf, I've been in and out of like different relationships where I was dating a girl long distance back in Austin, and just for kind of different like religious reasons we broke up. But then like I started dating another girl, and one of the first things I tell girls, like, when we're kind of in the dating process, of I was like, hey, like I play professional golf, and like I'm not necessarily trying to say it outright that like golf takes a priority over like you, because that's not a nice thing to tell another human being, but it is a little bit of that, where it's like I tell them like, hey, like if it's going to be a problem that like I travel a ton or I spend a lot of time like
speak up now, right?
Working, like speak up now, and it's cool that this relationship like will not work. So I found that's really helpful to communicate that like early on, and I can kind of relate to that, of like you saying that with your students, where it's establishing relationships. I think not even necessarily romantically. I noticed that was one of the difficult things in professional golf, where when I started, like, it was a whole new world for me to navigate, in terms of also just like friendships, where like a lot of my time is spent either traveling or just like working on my golf game. So I don't necessarily live like a normal lifestyle or like relate to a lot of the kind of like things that, people who are not in professional sports don't relate to, anything like that. So I noticed that was something that like really, like within the first 6 months, I was like, oh, like I was kind of feeling like a bit isolated, and that I didn't have this sense of like community. And that was something that I had to kind of like work through and find what community meant to me. Just even on like a friendship level of establishing new relationships, and you meet a new friend or maybe someone you go on a date with, and you're like, hey, like it was great to meet you this one time. I'm gonna go play like 3 tournaments for like the next like 3 months, and I hope to see you again. So. Anyway, all that to say, it is a little bit difficult, but I think also like similar to y'all, Wayne, I noticed you mentioned you have a wife, and Josh mentioned you were previously married. You have a current wife as well too, Josh?
Yes, I do. I have a unicorn. And speaking of communication up front, this is something Wayne knows and other viewers who've heard this before. But the first thing I told my current wife when we got together is I'm a poker player. So there's going to be nights when I come home and I'm up or down $10,000, and your response has to be the same thing. Oh, that's great, honey. Can you pass the salt? Like it doesn't, you don't need to get excited. You don't need to get the fucking world's coming to an end. And she understood that from the word go, which is why I tell people she's my unicorn. So when you meet your unicorn, I guarantee you it's going to be a partner who's like, oh, I totally get it. Like, and like supports you 100%.
Yep. No, I'm really confident in that as well too, and that's beautiful that you found that you're in your unicorn as well too. And I can definitely relate to that within the world of professional sports, where it's like like, hey, like I'm gonna have days where like if once I get to like the highest level, like I'm gonna be like on the media, and they can either be saying some really bad things about me, or they can really great things about me. But it doesn't change. Like I think from what you're just saying is like it doesn't change like how you like fundamentally like see me as a human or our relationship. Like it's still kind of just life as usual, where it's like, hey, we can still have this connection and have this relationship.
Well,
like
and
like
it's one of those things where sometimes like women will look at money as security, and that's normal. But like when you express to them, hey, there's always more money to be made. Like if the government takes $98,000 out of your bank account or whatever, it's just like salt. You can go make more salt. Speaking from experience.
I hear what you're saying.
But
you have a great mindset though. Like, so we had Brenda on a couple weeks ago. She also is somebody that we met at the Diplo race that we met you at, and she actually put a poll up on her Instagram prior to coming on with us to try to like she was actively dating, but she was just trying to see what her audience was saying. And one of the things that came up was women basically said that a lot of guys would give like, they wouldn't be clear with their intentions, right? So I think it's amazing that you're not saying, hey, golf is my number one, like no one's going to ever take over that. But like, you're basically saying, hey, like, this is what I'm doing. This is my passion. This is what I'm working towards. You're basically saying, take it or leave it. Like if you want to continue seeing each other, I'll be in whatever random Boise, Idaho, wherever your tournament is. Like, I'll be here like maybe once every 6 months. We can keep in touch, whatever. But hey, like, this is my passion. This is what I'm going to do. And that's really mature. And in a strange way, it also makes you more attractive to the opposite sex because you're indifferent, right? Most guys, when they kind of meet somebody, they're like, oh my God, like, I'm going to do anything to like keep this girl. Like, I'll like basically kiss her feet or do whatever. But you're pretty much, not that you're not into the girl, but you're saying, listen, I have a lot of other priorities. I'm traveling a lot. So in a weird way, I'm sure you've probably seen that actually makes you more attractive to whoever you're talking to.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I think just kind of back to your original point as well too, of just like being intentional right off the bat of like communicating like your like priorities and communicating like, hey, like what you're actually looking for, or like how you want to like build a relationship or anything like that as well too. That's something that I've noticed like as just like a young man, like as I've gotten better and better, like sure, like we've all like, made mistakes or just kind of like been like, a young kid at some point in time. But as I've like matured, I've like realized it saved me like so much like time and energy and communication of just like communicating those like straight off the bat, saying, hey, this is who I am. These are my priorities. This is what I'm looking to build. And if we align on that, great. It seems like we can develop this connection, and then you kind of put in the legwork and the communication to develop that. But if not, like, no worries. Like, I wish you your best of luck. So I definitely hear what you're saying there.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you, because golf does have a limited time frame on your body. Have you looked at doing poker after your golf career?
I've not looked at doing poker, and truthfully, boys, I am a horrible like gambler in poker, any like table game. I know like they're different, like, and
well, you can learn it just like learning a golf swing. You can learn.
No,
poker.
it's true.
You can learn
it's
how
true.
to control your emotions and reactions.
I've only played poker like a handful of times, just like with some random buddies, and like I'll out myself. Like I need to kind of like have like what certain hands mean, like next to me, like on the table, because I like know like, oh, like am I looking for like that's actually like that's straight, or that's like a flush. So I'm still at that level. So like I think if God forbid golf was to go downhill, and I don't think poker would necessarily be like my next endeavor, but who knows, maybe one day. And
I was just thinking, because you have the mindset of the traveling already, and then I have a saying, from failures we learn, success not so much. So like every time we bust out of a tournament, we're always reflecting upon what could we have done a little bit differently. I'm sure it's the same thing like in golf. You're like, well, maybe I shouldn't have laid it up here, or maybe I should have, maybe I shouldn't have gone for it here. So you're reevaluating your play at the end of the day. Like, you already have that mental mindset. Really, it's just the difference between, being around a poker table and being outside. But I'd rather be outside myself. But
I hear you. I would think that the poker and golf have very similar like processes in terms of the mindset, where I would imagine, in poker, like staying relatively like unbiased and unemotional, and just kind of really just like objectively judging things is like how they are, and then being able to like have the perspective of saying, hey, like I played that hand, and in that hand, maybe I played it too aggressively, like similar in golf of, that's how you learn, of saying like, hey, like I was in this situation once before, and I got too aggressive trying to hit this certain shot. That's maybe not a shot I have practiced that many times before. Next time when I'm in this certain scenario, I now know that, hey, I'm gonna, go back to my comfort standard shot, something like that. So I would think that poker and golf kind of like, definitely have the hand-in-hand crossover mindset there, where the more you can learn from your failures and learn from your mistakes, and just also just judge things objectively as they come, as seeing things not necessarily as like good or bad, just things objectively as they are, and then playing your hand or playing your position in golf from there, that's how I imagine the best poker players win tournaments, and similar, that's how the best golfers win tournaments as well too, where speaking about failure, golf is like also the sport that experiences some of the highest failure rate, where you talk about like some of the greatest golfers throughout history, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. Like you think about the run that Tiger Woods went on from like 1997 to like 2010 to like, he was the winningest golfer all in like history, and he only still won like what, I think 0.3, like 0.28 percentage. So it's like 70% of the time Tiger Woods was still finishing second. So
Right.
It's like you only experience that winning like a small amount of time. And just curious, I imagine that that's similar within the field of like poker as well too, where if the greatest poker players, or like, if you go to like 30 events, do you consider a relative kind of like hot streak or success if you win like 3? Because in the world of professional golf,
I was gonna say 2 to 3. Not even WSOP events, just like regular series events. WSOP events, maybe 2 in 1 year would be huge.
Exactly. Similar where it, funny
but
enough,
see, now here's something that you're missing out on. A lot of poker players do play golf, and they play it really shittily, and they bet lots of money on golf. So now I'm thinking you need to take up a little bit of poker and then talk them onto the golf course. That's what you
maybe I might need to do that, because I think the money just flows around in a circle, where I'm pretty confident in my golf gambling skills, like on the course, but then I would just give it all back to poker players once I get on the table. And then once you boys get out with me on the golf course, you maybe give it back. Like I'm okay with
but
that.
What you got to just give a little less on the table and then take it on the golf course. See?
Yeah,
exactly. We say you got to keep the fish happy, or you got to keep the whales happy. I think the next time we're in Florida, we got to see if you're not on a tournament circuit, and we got to be like, hey, let's do a poker golf like weekend or something. We'll give you a couple poker lessons. You give us a couple golf lessons. We can try to see if we can get some, rich whales maybe join us, and maybe see if we could bet a couple bucks.
I would love it. That sounds great.
I would definitely be down for that. That sounds like a good weekend.
We'll make sure to schedule it in like the winter time in Florida, where it's the winter time where up in for you up in Michigan, Josh, where you can come down back to 75 degrees and sunny.
Winter time for me right now is from now until about mid to late April, unfortunately, which really sucks. I used to play on the tennis high school team, and the first week of tennis practice was always indoors. The second week of tennis practice was dependent upon if we could shovel the courts. And I remember the second week of tennis, it was 3 feet of snow on the tennis courts that we shoveled, and then we were playing tennis in the snow, like while it was snowing, because that's tennis season starts and it's still snowing up here. That's how stupid the weather is up here. I just live in a place where there's no alligators or poisonous snakes or poisonous spiders or hurricanes. At least that's what we keep repeating to ourselves as the wind hurts our face up here in the north.
Exactly, as more snow comes down and everything like that.
So I wanted to ask you, JP, you're at a pretty interesting age in that you're older than a lot of Gen Z, but then you're younger than like a millennial like myself. I'm 37, right? So obviously you mentioned you're pretty busy. You're on the road a lot, similarly to us, but I'm wondering either your personal experience or your like close friends. The reason that we actually went to the Diplo event is because we had another guy similar age to yourself, where we were doing research, and it said that Gen Z is drinking less alcohol than any other generation before. So because of that, a lot of these business owners that maybe used to own a traditional bar or club, they're basically trying to figure out events similar to the Diplo Run Club, where you can kind of cater to the fitness crowd. There is alcohol there, obviously, but like you don't have to necessarily drink if you're there. So like in your experience, like you and your friends, are you guys more like online dating, or like when you're maybe in a town for like a weekend or so, like are you guys actually going out to bars and like talking to people, or like what's your experience with that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And from personal experience, I really don't consume alcohol for more of kind of like a lifestyle, like where in professional golf, like one of the things that I'm really working to do is just hit the ball further. And to do that, I need to get stronger in the gym. So I can't really drink alcohol. But in terms of also like lifestyle and mental health, I noticed that, I had I would say a relatively like normal childhood and then also like young adulthood, where it's like I went to college and I drank my fair share in college at like college bars, having fun with friends and like that. And that was amazing. I really had fun doing all of that. But then I noticed an interesting kind of like change in perspective right when I got out of college, where honestly drinking alcohol just wasn't fun to me anymore. And I would notice just like waking up after drinking and, you know, feel pretty like horrible hangover wise, but then also like just feel more like anxious and yeah, it wasn't fun to me anymore. And I do see a lot of, I think, a similar perspective in a lot of people around my age, where I just don't think, you know, a lot of people see the benefit in terms of like that, you know, having like fun of really, really going out to a bar and, you know, you're having your 5, 6, 7, 8 drinks, however many it is, to really like, you know, like really get after it. But I think something that, you know, you touched on as well too, is that people still want a lot of that like community and that culture and that entertainment. So a lot of like bars and kind of, you know, you see these like run clubs popping up everywhere as well too, where just offering people kind of like different activities to do and still be able to connect. And I think something that, you know, kind of comes from that is like a lot. I've noticed a lot of people are also like having like a beautiful kind of like meet in the middle type of spot, where it's like people don't necessarily want to like give up like drinking or alcohol like 100%. So, you know, they'll go and have 1 or 2 drinks, and then they can still go out and they can still run, or they can still lift, or they can still kind of like live a relatively like healthy and active lifestyle. So that's kind of like what I'm seeing in people around like my age, where yeah, just for various reasons, like, you know, going out to bars or really drinking heavily like really doesn't seem that like attractive or fun anymore. And it really is more of kind of like living like more like health conscious lifestyle. But I think it's also really interesting how people, you know, think they're being more health conscious, but then you also see like a lot of like rise in people, you know, using alternative substances as well too, whether that's like vaping or like doing like mushrooms or any other substance as well too, where it's like, you know, I think the term like I think it's called like California sober or something like that, where, you know, people really like abstain from alcohol, but then they'll basically kind of do any other substance and they think that it's necessarily a more like
California sober. Is that what
yeah.
you
So
call
that's
it?
you guys haven't heard that?
I live in
No,
California and I haven't heard of that.
I've
Oh,
heard of
yeah.
a California buffet, you know, where they have like shrooms and brownies and, you know, like it's a buffet. They call it a California buffet because it's
Yeah.
all laced with pot and shit, or shrooms, but not a California sober. So they're like,
Now
oh,
you
I
guys
don't
heard, yeah,
drink, but I
California
do all the
sober
other
is like
stuff.
when you don't drink alcohol, but you'll engage in other stuff, whether it's shrooms or, you know, pot, whatever you want, like just like anything else, really, basically. And I think that's a really
Yeah.
interesting perspective where, you know, you can look at the data and have different perspectives. Like, I was like, are you necessarily like making a more health conscious choice? Or I think like it's an interesting perspective how kind of like, yeah, like younger generations have like really kind of like, you know, really, I don't know if necessarily say like demonized alcohol. I don't know if that's like too harsh of a term, but they really
Well,
have a pretty
maybe
strong.
because like when you look at my generation, I'm 45, you know, so I'm a Gen Xer, and we would get shit faced and then wake up at 7 in the morning and then change our clothes, hop in the shower, then go work all day and then get shit faced the very next night and wash, rinse, and repeat. And that's how our Fridays and Saturdays went for years on end. So maybe the kids that we had, the Gen Xers, you know, 45 to 55 or whatever, all their kids who are at, you know, in the 20 to 30 range are like, screw my parents, they were alcoholics, you know,
Yeah,
because
I hear what you're
I
saying.
believe,
I hear
yeah,
what
I
you're saying.
think like,
I certainly think that's pretty
yeah,
true. Where some of my friends do share that
yeah,
perspective as well too, where they see
yeah,
their parents go down a nasty road with alcohol and they think to themselves like, hey, like I don't want to repeat that road.
or even if they convince themselves that their parents an alcoholic, you know, that's one of those things. Like, since I started keto, I don't drink. Even for like the last year, I haven't really drank that much. There's been a few nights where I might have some beverages. Wayne knows about those nights, but like for the most part, like I went from drinking like a SoCo and Dr. Pepper or SoCo and Coke every night, which if you
Mhm.
ask a doctor, they'll say you're an alcoholic if you do it every
Yep.
night. But I want to do it to get drunk. I just literally have 1, maybe 2 drinks, to where now I might have 1 or 2 drinks maybe every 2 or 3 months. Like I might have a drink, I might have a beer once a month, maybe. Like when I was in Japan, I think I had a couple of drinks, and even in Bali, we were with a group that really liked to drink, and I had a couple drinks with those guys, but I didn't even really enjoy it. You know, when
I
you
hear exactly.
do exit, when you do exit the drinking lifestyle, even if it is California sobriety, which I love that term, by the way, yeah, you go back to like, you're like, maybe one pina colada or one glass of wine is okay, but you're like, I definitely don't need the bottle, and I don't need 4 margaritas. Thank you very much. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Exactly. I can
yeah,
definitely relate to that perspective where I realized like, drinking was fun like in college or like, in my kind of like younger 20s to a certain extent. But then like once it stopped being fun, I'm like, actually, no, I still want to like connect with others. So like, for me, like having a drink, like, if like some friends invite me to a bar or something like that, like I think that's something that like honestly a lot of younger generations are missing out on in this kind of, like putting such a bad like label on like alcohol is we wish we do miss out on such of this like community event where like I really like kind of thinking maybe it's just me romanticizing it like in my head of like when my parents like seeing like old school movies or just like imagining like my parents going out to like having a great time with their buddies at bars. Like I unfortunately don't think a lot of like young kids or younger people are doing that nowadays, and I'm just like, hey, like so that's why I think like kind of having this healthier perspective, like, hey, like just go out, and if someone invites you for a drink, you don't necessarily like have to drink. It's more about, hey, like let's go out and connect, let's go out, have conversations, let's go
oh,
and just experience that
yeah.
human connection.
When
That's I think that, and I'm no medical doctor by any means. Everyone else in my
yeah,
family has the MD
no,
before,
but
but I think it would be healthier for us overall if we still had like one drink a week or one drink a night, but we still had that social interaction. Though the health benefits you get from just that social connection and that social interaction alone, those are going to far outweigh the health risks from a drink or two or something like that.
yeah, I was gonna say when I lived in Watertown, Wisconsin, my buddy Joel Hoffman and I, we used to have every Monday and Tuesday off. So on Sundays we would go out and get shit faced. Watertown, Wisconsin's in the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most bars per capita in the
Nice.
world. So you basically have somebody's bar on the first floor and then they live right above it. So on Sunday nights, and they have the greatest beer called Spotted Cow, right? Only brewed in Wisconsin.
I've
People
heard of
who
Spy
drive
Cow.
through
I have
Wisconsin
an uncle
know
told me
about.
about it.
Yeah, so Spotted Cow is amazing. So we would go and we would go bar hopping, which is a novelty. Like people, Gen Zs are like, what the hell's bar hopping? We
Yeah.
would go and get pictures of Spotted Cow, and we would down a pitcher and we'd try counting how many teeth the women had in the bar. And then we would go to the next bar, and then we would bet on whether or not the women had more teeth or
More
less
teeth, yeah.
teeth. And we would do shit like that. Like,
Awesome.
you try to explain that to a 22-year-old, they're gonna go, what the hell were you guys doing? Like, yeah, that's what you would do. You're like, hey man, we got the whole night, let's go.
That's awesome. That's
you
awesome.
know but like, you're right, there is a social interaction there, because even when you were bar hopping at all these white trash bars and having conversations with all these great people, you were interacting with people, you were getting to know them, and then you're like, hey man, Susie next week, don't forget she's only got 3 teeth for the tally next week, because it was every week you would go and then make bets on who had more
Yeah.
teeth and stuff. I know that sounds terrible, but
No, it doesn't sound terrible. Honestly, like those are the type of stories that I love and that I would love to hear from more of like my friends or just like younger people as well. It's like, yeah, like go out and make memories with your friends, regardless. Everyone was safe, everyone was having a good time. Like, like as long as all that's happening, like yeah, go out and have a great time and have that connection with other people. It doesn't have to be drinking, or if it is drinking, great. But as long as you end up like connecting and making memories at the end of the day, like that's what life's about, and that's what keeps you healthy.
yeah, bad decisions make good stories unless they come out 9 months later. Go ahead, Will.
No, I was going to say, JP, you hit the nail on the head because, yeah, I think the younger generation, they just look from the physical standpoint like, oh, I'm not drinking at all. Like, I'm super healthy. But then you look at all these statistics that come out and say suicide, depression, anxiety is all-time high. Like, there's never been more people in their 20s single. There's never been like people are having sex less than ever before. Like, and obviously kids aren't, people aren't having kids. Like, so it all kind of goes down the line, right? So I agree with you. Like, not saying you have to be an alcoholic, but if you are a guy in your like 20s, maybe you just got out of college and you don't really have that much of a social circle, and you do hope to, you know, eventually get a wife and have kids or whatnot, like the first step is talking to someone of the opposite sex, right? Like I always make a joke, unless you're really sweet on the Amazon delivery girl, like no one is coming to your door. Like you literally have to go out and like actually meet people. You know, it's scary, like going out in the wild, but like you actually have to go out. So I think taking that approach is a much healthier one. Like, sure, yes, obviously, if drinking more than not, sure, that's slightly negative. But if you meet someone and you're, you know, getting friends, you're building that community, that's going to make you much socially healthier than kind of just doing the same thing that people have been doing.
Well, and what's the worst that's going to happen? You're a 22, 23-year-old guy. You go into a bar and you get picked up by some cougar who's, you know, 35, 36. She pays for everything and shows you a great time. I mean, you know, it can't be all that bad, right?
I mean, like, that I really hope that doesn't happen to me. But no, I hear exactly what you all say. And I think, you know, just, you know, not trying to, you know, push my generation down or anything like that, but I think it's really pretty detrimental what like social media and just like spending so much time like in like isolation on your phone like has done to kind of just like in general like human connection, where yeah, a lot of like guys like, you know, my age, and I've even noticed it, like experienced myself, where it's like we're just like, you know, kind of scared to like go up and like, you know, approach a woman, and like scared of that like fear of rejection, where like I think like now like since social media like has been invented, we spent so much time like we see, you know, like it like we see kind of like in like our, and we make up in our mind like there's like biggest fear of like game rejected, when in reality like it's not that bad at all, where it's like, hey, like, you know, like at the end of the day like we're all humans, and like even I noticed it within myself, where it's like I was kind of using like, I'm not using dating apps anymore or anything like that, but it's like I was using like dating apps like as kind of like a crutch to kind of like just be able to like, you know, easily like talk to like, you know, the opposite sex and like that. And I noticed that, and I was like, wow, like I really like have to like go out of my way to like learn how to start a conversation. And it sounds crazy to say, but like I think because of like the younger generations with like, you know, social media,
like,
or just,
can we just text about what we want to ask each other instead of
exactly? And I noticed I was like, dude, you have to be able to like have just a normal conversation with another human, and social media is not helping with that. Online dating is not helping with that. Like, go out, you know, if you make a fool of yourself,
put your phone down.
They're not gonna remember you in 2 days. They're not gonna remember you like, you know, 3-4 weeks down the road. Like, it'll be okay. So that's something I really noticed, like kind of like within like younger generations, that makes me a little bit worried, but something even within myself that I've like worked on and kind of like overcame. It's like, hey, like, you know, I just need to be able to go up and just say, hi, I'm JP. I really like your outfit, and then just starting a conversation from there. Or it doesn't even have to be anything like smooth or anything like that. It's just about the act of like starting that like conversation.
I always tell people, dance like no one's watching.
Yes.
And then as long as you're like dancing like no one's watching, or you just go up to somebody and you just start dancing like they're not even watching you, and they could be like 2 feet from you and you can just be bobbing your head or dancing or doing whatever, then just spark up a conversation and say, you know what I'm doing? I'm dancing like no one's watching. I mean, that right there just shows so much confidence. Women are going to be like, whoo. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And I know we met at Diplo's Run Club. I love to get a good boogie on, and it's something I agree. Like I was telling my friends and I are actually heading out to California later on this year to go attend a music festival. And the music festival announced that there's going to be more like, you know, like dancing platforms, something like that. And I was like, you know what, like, I'm really confident that like, you know, the world depression rate would get like cut in half if just like more people just like danced on elevated surfaces. Like, can we bring that back? Can we make that super popular? Just making sure that everybody got their 60 minutes in each and every day of just dancing on an elevated surface.
I like it.
Yeah.
What do you think,
agree.
Wayne?
I mean, no, all these points are hitting the nail right on the head. We've talked about it pretty much like every episode we've had. Whatever topic we're talking about, we've just kind of stressed to people like, hey, go out and just start a conversation, right? It doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to be picking up somebody. It doesn't have to be smooth, as you said, but like to be able to just go have a conversation with somebody, like you need that in almost anything, right? Like, you know, even in golf, like, you know, you're going to be talking to people like potential sponsors or people watching you on the golf course. Like you have to be able to go up to someone and just start a conversation. And what you said, oh, I like your outfit. Yeah. In sales, we used to have a lot of principles for this. One of them was basically the C principle. So you smile, eye contact, enthusiasm. Just go up, and even if you say something stupid, but you're smiling, you're having a good time. Like even if you fumble your pickup line, it doesn't matter. Like if you're unaffected by it, that person is going to, respond pretty well to it. If you go up and you're like, oh fuck, like I screwed up my pickup line, and you're looking just like super defeated, your body language, you're slunched over, like that's not going to work out. So yeah, that's something that they should really teach in high school and college, but they just don't. So like I think people just have to put their phones away. That's why I have this very interesting relationship with social media, because I actually never had a social media until I needed it for business. Like I was in real estate years ago before I got into poker. So I had an Instagram for that. And then for poker, like I didn't like Instagram, but I said, okay, like I need an Instagram, right? Because like even me and you, we chatted on Instagram to set this up, right? So I think as long as you're using it for the right thing, it's fine. But people are just kind of locked into it. And I think really it relates to my favorite quote by Teddy Roosevelt, and says comparison is the thief of joy, right? So people are on there, they're seeing people, guy like Dan Bilzerian lifestyle, like he's on a 100-foot yacht with like bikini models, and find out he's basically paid all of those chicks. Like it's not real, but like you see that, you're like, oh geez, like I'm such a loser. Like look at these guys, like everyone's got a big house, everyone's Bitcoin millionaires, everyone's this, and like it just gives you more excuses to when you do actually get out in public, you're like, oh, like she's gonna think I'm a loser. Like I don't have anything that these guys have on Instagram, right? So I think if you use it for the right things, like communicating with family, like obviously you use it for like your golf and you give lessons and all these different things, like that's great. But to just be locked into these social media apps is just extremely detrimental.
I 100% agree, and I can relate to a lot of that. I appreciate you sharing, because I noticed myself, just thinking about similar things where, when kind of my mental health has been like down, it's because I've spent so much time like on social media comparing myself, and exactly, it's everyone's highlight reel. It's not real life perspective at all. It takes really that perspective and that mindfulness to take a step back and realize that, hey, like whoever that person that you think on social media like lives such an amazing lifestyle of these fancy houses or whatever it is you want in life or anything like that, like they're human just like the rest of us. They experience the same feelings, emotions. They don't have great days, like anything like that. So having that perspective, I think, is really important. But I've definitely gotten lost in the sauce, and at times I've had to take a step back and realize like, hey, like, social media is not healthy for me in my mental health, or like the way I started like comparing myself, or even just like, I think a lot of like young males can really relate to this, of feeling kind of like always like behind in life, of just like, even when you do like achieve something, whether it's getting a promotion or, starting a family or getting a first house, it's easy to look to someone else like, wait, they did it, or they're doing it with that, or they're doing it. And it's like, hey, like, we're all on our own journeys in life, and you run your own race. So the more you can focus on running your own race, and the more you can focus on just like you and your own journey, then the happier you're going to be overall, and stop playing this comparison game, because it's a losing game. Something I've been really grateful with growing up in the game of golf is, it's no secret that golf is kind of like relatively an affluent sport where, a lot of people like usually like have money or join fancy country clubs like golf. And that's something that like my grandfather and dad taught me from a very early age, is like, there's always going to be someone that is going to have more of whatever you want. And, the more you compare yourself to that person, is the more unhappy you're going to be, where, just when you think you've got like the nicest boat or something like that, like, hey, like that guy next to you, he's probably got a bigger boat. But it's not about like comparing like boat size or anything like that. It's really just realizing.
I was going to say, I think it was Sigmund Freud who said, if you allow somebody else to ruin your life, whether it's through comparison or the harm they've done you, you will. Exactly. So yeah, like thief is the greatest comparison, or comparison is the greatest, thief of joy. Yeah, if you allow someone else to ruin your life, whether they've done you harm or you're just jealous of them because you're always like, I want that, then you will allow that to ruin your life. That's exactly what Freud said, which is kind of funny. Now, we have a tradition on our show where a previous guest gets to ask any question that they want, and then you get to ask the next guest any question that you want. You have no idea who our next guest is.
Okay.
And so the question that the previous guest asked was, which is kind of ironic because I'm sure you might have one answer for this, but maybe you have more. But what's a habit or something that you've always done in your life or in your career that you've always constantly done?
It's a good question. The first one that comes to mind is gratitude. Is just having a habit of gratitude. Whether that's it started out really when I was like 18, and in my one of my classes called Theory of Knowledge, and just our basically the biggest assignment was just to basically keep a gratitude journal, and it didn't obviously matter what you had in the journal. You just had to keep like 5 to 10 things each and every day, and that habit turned into like keeping a gratitude journal for like 60 days turned into like keeping my gratitude habit going like the rest of my life. So I would say gratitude for sure, whether it's me writing stuff down in a journal or just like waking up in the morning. That's one of the first things that I start my day with, where when I wake up every day, I immediately just say like, wow, like, God, thank you so much for waking me up today. Like it's another beautiful day. And then like going throughout my day.
Was this in a college class that you took when you were 18, or was
no, this was my high school class. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out
to that class.
Yeah.
Holy
shout out. Yeah. Theory of Knowledge is always so, shout out Dr. Fern, where, he just started this, and anyway, all that to say, it's been an incredible habit that just throughout the day, like I just, randomly catch myself thinking like, wow, like that's like an amazing cloud over there. Like I'm really grateful for that. Or just it could be something so small, it could be something so big. And then I end my night with it as well too, where I just, in my prayers, I say, like God, thank you so much for this day that you've given me, and thank you so much for XYZ and everything like that. And it becomes less about like necessarily list making, and like truly feeling like deep gratitude of whatever you're feeling gratitude for. I think it's something that I also, one of the best ways I've done it in my life as well too, where it's actually happened at a music festival, similar to Diplo's Run Club about 2 years ago, and when I was at Electric Forest, and I just remember you might know it, being in Michigan, Josh.
My wife goes to Electric Forest every year.
Nice, love it.
It's during the World Series of Poker. It's the third weekend in June.
Oh, true. Even though I didn't know that. I did not know that. That was the World Series of Poker.
Yeah, the World Series of Poker starts May 27th and goes until July 17th, but we're usually there like May 27th to July 1st. Gotcha. But yeah, Electric Forest is usually between June 17th and June 24th. But I know they keep increasing their pricing, and they keep pissing off. Like, it used to be a hippy dippy place, and now they have day passes and raves more on Saturday nights. But you said Electric Forest changed you a few years ago.
Yeah, just in the sense that I just noticed I was just in the middle of the forest with my friends, really enjoying music, and I acquired like proud of myself, and then just really had a moment of like gratitude and presence of like, I was like, God,
nice.
Never let me take this moment for granted. Never let me take the way I'm able to move my feet when I'm dancing for granted. Never let me take for granted the way I hear the music. And I just carry that forward. And anytime I'm hearing music now, where I did it at Diplo's Run Club, where I was like, I'm so grateful, and never let me take for granted, the way I'm able to move my body or enjoy this music. So I would say gratitude has been a habit that's something that's changed my life and carrying forward. And yeah,
I love that. I know Wayne can testify if he's having one of the worst days of his life, poker wise. I'm probably one of the best people to be around, because I make you forget about it soon by like joking around, telling stories, getting pizza, beer, whatever the case may be, you know. And sometimes it's like, you got to be grateful. Like, I'll never forget one of Wayne's first biggest losses. He was in some tournament for like, I don't know, 3 bullets or 6 bullets. It was 3 bullets at $600 a pop. And he was like, I just blew $1,800 in like 5 minutes, Josh. I've never done that before in my life. And I was like, welcome to degeneracy, But I remember bringing him pizza and beer, because at the beginning of the trip, he opens up the fridge and he goes, who in the hell would pay $15 for a beer. And after his third bullet in the $600 PLO tournament, I bust out and I call him, I'm like, hey, how you doing? And he goes, I'm staring at the fridge. I'm going to drink one of these $15 fucking beers. And I said, don't do anything. I'm going to grab pizza and beer. I'm on my way up. And I dropped like, I don't know, it was like 50, 60 bucks, but it was on a, 10-pound of pizza that I had to carry all the way across the Palazzo with 2 48 ounces of beers that I did not spill the whole way. And I was sweating my balls off for my buddy. And yeah, within about an hour,
that's a quality friend right there.
Yeah, he was like, years from now, I won't even give a shit about the $1,800. He goes, because I remember this more than anything. And I said, you bet your ass. I said, because there's always a good time to be had. Doesn't matter what you do at the poker tables, just like on the golf course. Doesn't matter if you shank the shot, as long as you're enjoying yourself,
Exactly.
Now, what question would you like to leave our next guest? You can ask them anything that you want.
Okay. The question that I would like to ask the next guest is, if you go back in time and spend time with your 10-year-old self for the day, what would you do for the day, and what would you tell him?
Go back in time with your 10-year-old self.
What would you tell him, and what would you do for the day?
Yeah, what would you do for the day, and what would you tell him?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think of what I would tell my 10-year-old.
I would love to hear, your boys' answer as well too, if you want to jump in, or if you want to jump into the question that I was just asked as well too. Like, I would love to hear.
I would probably just say one thing to my 10-year-old self: Bitcoin.
What would that be? Bitcoin. Yeah, just Bitcoin.
I would just say Bitcoin, Josh. Just Bitcoin.
My funny story: the buddy that bought all of our first fake IDs when we were 16 years old, he bought them in Bitcoin, but he bought exactly enough Bitcoin to only like pay for the IDs. And we calculated like the math where it's like, at the time, if he would have just bought like an extra like, IDs worth of Bitcoin, which I think was like $20 or something like that, his Bitcoin would be worth like, 1.2 million or something like that. And we were like,
just an insane amount. Man.
Yeah, I think if I'm trying to think of what I would, when I was 10 years old, I remember as a kid, like I had a lot of insecurities. Like I remember I would always wear long sleeve shirts, like even in the summer, because for some reason, like I was very like worried about what people are going to think, because I kind of have like slightly hairy arms, and like there was just like a lot of little things like that. And I kind of remember like school being kind of it's tough, because when you get older, usually the people that stand out are the ones that are the most successful. But like when you think about it, it's actually the opposite in school growing up. Like the kid who's different, or I remember there was this like Asian kid that I went to high school with, and he was like the first person to have a roller backpack, right? Most people have like the JanSport backpack, but this, I don't know, maybe if it came from Asia or whatnot, but like he was the first person that had the roller backpack, and like kids were so friggin' fucked up. Like they would literally like kick the backpack and like screw with them. And so I think if I go back and talk to my 10-year-old self, I would just say, listen, don't worry about what other people think of you. Like just be yourself, like have fun. You're a kid, you're 10 years old. Like you're going to grow up one day and look back and say, man, I wish I was 10 again, right? When you don't have a worry in the world. So I think I would just go back and say, just be yourself and don't give a shit what other people think.
Beautiful advice.
Yeah. I think this was a great conversation. I really, the coolest part I think about the podcast is when we met you at the Run Club, Josh was asking me, he was like, oh, we're chatting with JP right before you got on. I was like, yeah, we're chatting with JP. He's like, remind me when we met him again. And I was like, we were all the way in the front right of the stage. I think we were taking pictures with somebody. And then like, before we knew it, the whole area got completely crowded. And then we were like walking through this crowd of, I don't know, like 10,000 people. And I was like, yeah, we just kind of bumped into JP like in the middle and just ended up chatting and like exchanging Instagrams. And I think the coolest thing is we probably talked for maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes. And like now we're chatting now, but it's just cool to meet other really positive minded people in different walks of life. And I think it's really just about like, we do poker, you do golf, like completely different industries, but it's just cool to build that community. And I think if more people, similarly to what you said about the dance floor, like if more people danced on raised dance floors, I think similarly, if people just went out and just had a positive attitude about whatever situation they're in, like it would just be so much better off.
I agree, boys. I'm very grateful we met that day as well. And yeah, I just remember just being in the crowd with my friend Kirksey. I was like, no way, those dudes are in the Dumb and Dumber costume. Those guys are awesome. Like, I just want to go up and say hi. And yeah, just for me, going up and say hi and compliment you guys on your outfit and talking a little bit, like just knowing that you do this podcast and talking about like mental health overall and everything like that. Like, mental health's a big part of kind of like who I am as a person, and part of like my journey in professional golf is like I've set out a goal to be one of the best players on the planet. But aside from that, like my really true main goal is really to have a positive difference in the world of mental health. And I really want to be known for not kind of like what I do on the golf course, but what I do off the golf course of having conversations like this, connecting with different people, and just understanding like, hey, like, we're all human. We're all going through the same stuff. And the more we can connect and the more we can spread positivity, the more we can show each other love and encouragement and support. We're all on this floating rock in, this universe that we only know so little about. Like, let's all have a good time. Let's all enjoy it. So I'm grateful for what you boys do in advancing the mental health conversation, because that's just step one, is just talking about it, getting out in the open. And as much as we can say, like, it is all like positive. And like, I'm very grateful that like, a lot of the days I do wake up, like, like a very positive, grateful human being, but a lot of like, truthfully speaking, a lot of like days I do wake up and, I'm not having the best thoughts, or I'm feeling like anxious or isolated or depressed and stuff like that. But again, that's all part of like the normal human experience. So the more that I can just get out and share that perspective and yeah, from even what we were talking about on social media, like understand that like, hey, like, my life's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. It is sometimes. I'm really grateful for the sunshine and rainbows, but at times, I have some dark thoughts, or at times, I may be feeling disconnected or something like that. And again, just the more we can bring light to that perspective, the more I think the world's gonna be better off. So I appreciate you boys for what you do and furthering that conversation.
Thanks, man.
Well, we appreciate you.
We're looking forward to meeting you, again, when we're in Florida. We'll definitely set something up. I know you mentioned about doing something for raising money for some kind of mental health charity. Like, we can definitely set something up. We're usually only in Florida in January's, but who knows? We have now a bunch more people we know in Florida, so we have more excuses to come visit more often.
I love it. Yeah, whether it's Florida, I could fly out to you boys in California, Colorado. You tell me where to meet you, and we could do something fun. We could play a little poker, play a little golf, raise some money for mental health. All connect along the way. That sounds like a great idea to me. So I'm looking forward to staying connected.
And JP, if people want to reach out to you on like, what do you use mostly, Instagram or X, or do you want to give out your tag or anything?
Yeah, all good. I appreciate it. Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm PCLE6522. On YouTube, you can go to see my JPC golf channel. And on that channel, I play various YouTube golf and professional matches to raise money for mental health. And then on TikTok as well, I'm JPC Golf.
I like it. Well, we appreciate it, brother. I think you're a blessing for sure. I love the gratitude. That makes me grateful as well. I just love running, like having I tell people all the time, we're spirits having a human experience, and it's nice to run into somebody with similar perspective. You know what I mean? So it's awesome.
Likewise, my guy. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. We'll bring you back on in a couple months. Thank you.
Awesome. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.
That was a good talk. I like that. That was when he starts saying the things like, we're all here having a human experience, like we're all in this together. It reminds me a lot of the same stuff my wife and I believe in. We're all here having a human experience together, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But you got to be grateful for the fact that you can have it, even in the painful moments, because you really don't know what pleasure is without pain, in my philosophy. Wayne, what's your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. I think, well, first off, I had no idea that there were so many similarities between golf and poker, right?
Oh my God.
I mean, I know you've probably played way more golf than me. I've probably played in my life maybe 8 to 10 rounds of golf, so not many. But like I knew obviously JP, has a lot of his content on Instagram and YouTube is golf related, but like I was the one that kind of set this up and I had no idea that there were so many similarities, but obviously from chatting with him with like tournaments and he's got to play these tournaments to qualify for certain leagues and you make different prize money. I mean, it's basically just like poker tournaments. It's pretty crazy. But then, yeah, just as I mentioned there in closing, just meeting someone who's very positive and really cares about making the world a better place. It's really refreshing to meet someone like that, right? Because I feel like the news and social media, they only cover the negative, right? They cover, oh, this school shooting, or they cover this. They don't say, oh, well, little Susie got an A+ on her spelling bee. Like you don't hear about all the normal stuff. You just cover, it's just so much negativity. So it's just cool to meet someone who is just very positive. And I love the gratitude journal, right? When he wakes up and he's just very grateful to be here and be able to play a game that he loves. And it sounds like he goes through the grind just like all of us, whether you play poker or you work a 9 to 5, but he wakes up with a smile on his face. And that's what I remember just from meeting him. Like he was just very, very happy. Like you could tell he was having a good time. And that definitely transferred over in the talk.
Yeah, no, I love the gratitude speak. And like what you were saying in the news, they're all doom and gloom. AI is taking over the world. I mean, I know that's my perspective, but I hear you there. If you guys ever want to be a guest on the Suck It Up Man podcast, shoot us an email below, or if you would like us to pick a particular topic. And we are live, what is it, every Wednesday at 7 p.m.? Is that correct, Wayne?
7 p.m. Eastern, yep. And as Josh said, reach out to us if you want to be a guest. We're also on Instagram at Suck It Up Man Live. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.
All right. Peace.